Hi, everyone. Welcome back to a new episode of Emerging Brands Podcast with Kelly Bennett. Today, I have a founder on the show who I've been personally following along for a while now. Someone who I think has done a stellar job of storytelling, building community, launching in major retailers. So, Ashley Nickelsen, the founder and CEO of B.T.R Nation, is here. Ashley, I'm so excited to have you on the show today.
Oh, what an intro, Kelly. I love it. I'm so honored to be here and excited to dive in.
Awesome. Well, I meant every word of it.
So,
And the thing that I always love to kick off a conversation is your story. And yours is, I know, very personal and dear to your heart. Anyone who's new to your brand and new to your story, would you give us an overview of why you started this brand?
absolutely. So, as you mentioned, it is extremely personal. So, I started BTR Nation really as a tribute to both my parents. This was a decade ago, diagnosed with very rare forms of cancer. And my mom was diagnosed first, and then a couple years later, my dad. So my mom had a leiomyosarcoma and just very rare aggressive form of cancer. And my dad had appendiceal cancer, which is like, you don't even need your appendix. It's so traumatic, honestly, to go through that experience. I was their caretaker for
Wow.
years, living in and out of hospitals. So I'm very, very passionate about the food that is in healthcare. And the way BTR Nation is positioned is obviously food, first and foremost, has to taste good. It has to have a texture that people love. It has to be nostalgic, but food should also be nutritional. Not everything, but when you're looking
Right.
at a nutrition bar, right? When you're looking at, where on the go snacks, there could and should be some more nutritional benefit there. So I was standing in front of this hospital vending machine and I had this aha moment of like, why is this all junk? Why can't there just be a couple more options in here that are good for you? Why can't there be refrigerated vending machines that have like fruit slices? And now, some changes have been made and a decade later, but we're still in this place where the vending machines are full of big food, right? It's Cliff, Kind, Mars, Kellanova, right? It's
Right.
all big food. And even when you take a look at the majority of a snacking set in grocery stores, especially big grocery stores, a lot of it is still big food. And we're making some progress, but BTR Nation is here to really, give that alternative, give that choice because consumers are asking for it. And when my parents passed away, I knew I wanted to do something to honor them. So I thought this would be like a direct to consumer business, focus on e-commerce, focus on storytelling. And the world had other plans for us, right? So we did start direct to consumer. That is my background. I worked at a supplement company as the head of sales and marketing for 4 years and grew that company to 8 figures before I left. And it was
Wow.
all D2C, Amazon focused on, building the brands and building a community. So that's what I wanted to do for BTR. And we are doing that. But as soon as we launched into the space, we started having retailers come to us. And I was like, okay, this is new. This is different, right? It's a whole different game. And I knew I always wanted to go into retail and it is the wild, wild west, but it is so pivotal for the continuation of the growth of the brand because that is where people really see it. They really attach meaning to the product. And now this whole thing is BTR. What does BTR mean? And I'm wearing my bold, tenacious, and resilient shirt. And for us, BTR has two meanings, right? It's intended to be a better nation. That's why we're making these products is we want to see a better nation, a better food system. We know we can do better, but be bold, tenacious, and resilient was my parents' personal mantra. And their essence and ethos is really in every aspect of the company.
That's so incredible. And when
Thank
you
you.
were sharing, I literally had goosebumps because to turn such a horrible, painful experience, but turn it truly into a purpose to make that ripple effect of touching people's lives and also thinking about someone who's in a similar situation as you are and taking care of loved ones and need something on the
Yes,
go or just want to help prevent that
exactly.
situation, right? And how you have poured, it genuinely feels like your heart and soul into this.
Everything's in it.
And everything, no, I feel that from you. And also, let's not skip over the fact that you have this amazing career experience. I mean, building a brand to seven figures and having that, it sounds like it was all meant to be that you had that experience. And also you saw this need and it hit you so deeply that it feels like you had to do it. Like
Agreed.
that's what I
It's
got from you already.
100%. So it's kind of all of the stars aligned. And really, after I was at this supplement company, I kind of knew in the middle of the pandemic, there were a lot of pandemic babies, right?
Right.
Literally a lot of pandemic babies, but also a
Right.
lot of pandemic businesses. And we were one of them. So I started thinking about this and dusting off my recipes in 2020. And then I knew like I was making them in my kitchen for my parents. So I was making these snacks for them. Our first two recipes are cinnamon cookie dough and our dark chocolate brownie. And I was like, I know what I need to do, right? I know I need to go to a co-manufacturer. I'm not going to do this in my kitchen. I know what it was like
Right.
doing it in my kitchen back then. So to do this at scale, it has to be like the recipe has to be adapted to a co-manufacturer. So that's what I spent, 2020 doing and really being able to like, end of 2020, I ended up resigning in like August or September. It was crazy. It was just such a wild ride because I was taking this jump into the unknown during a time where the globe was really like, what's going on?
Right.
What is happening in the world? There were all these supply chain shortages, and we felt those supply chain shortages into 2021. But I keep thinking, we have grown so much since then. And the business like looks unrecognizable from even 9 months ago. The business is it's just a whole other beast. And, you grow bigger, more problems, right? It's what they say, like,
Right.
they're just different problems. And it's exciting because it's at scale, but just different problems and a new day.
Yes. And so I would love to hear about Costco because
Sure.
that I remember you posting about it. And also, you did a reel that I want to say went viral too about it, which
It
was
did.
so great.
It did.
And so, what does that strategy look like? Because I know that that's the goal of so many founders who listen to this podcast in particular. Can you walk us through a little behind the scenes of what that all looks like?
Sure. So it was a wild experience. And Costco is a rotational business. So we're on rotation. So our rotation was the summer. So we're sold out. So which is
Amazing.
exciting and pretty wild. And I mean, Kelly, it's so hard to share that like we started the process in December of 2023. And we literally, when I found out like our distribution, and that's why I recorded every moment because it was such an amazing experience. And they're such a wonderful partner. And we were just able to reach tens of thousands of people because we were in 36 clubs across the Southeast, multiple pallets, right? It was just wild. And so I knew that we had to go all in for this. So
Right.
there's a couple of different ways, like some brands do road shows and like we got in on rotation. So they picked us up and I just decided like, hey, I'm going to go to the Southeast. I basically moved there. I was in the Southeast for over a month. And
Wow.
it was across a couple of different, like I came home, my daughter turned 2, right? So like I wanted
Oh,
to celebrate her
yeah.
birthday. So I was home for a few days, then I went right back out. So I just wanted to be there talking to consumers because we're talking about the mainstream consumer, right? So we have, up until Costco have mainly focused on food service and natural. And we have some very exciting launches happening at the end of this year. So I can't wait to share
Ooh,
more about them.
yes. We'll do a part 2.
Part two, life-changing launches as well. I mean, Costco was a life-changing launch, right? So for us, this was like we're in a couple conventional retailers like Rayleigh's and ShopRite. So, but I was like, I
Okay.
have to go out there and get the feedback, and it was wild, right? I think a lot of brands, especially us, like we're a very, very clean ingredient panel. Like we take clean probably to the extreme, right? So like we don't use natural flavors. It's a big pet peeve of mine because there's natural flavors in everything.
Right.
99% of products in the food industry. And honestly, they're not real, right? So they're manipulated flavors to make us, to make the product cheaper, right? And to make us addicted to something, right? So it's not that
Right.
I don't eat natural flavors. I do on a daily basis. I try not to, but it's there. But I wanted to see, does the Costco consumer care about this? And I was able to talk to thousands of people. I visited almost every club. I was not in the Puerto Rico club, but every other club I visited twice, most of them. And
Wow.
it was just wild to see. People were just over the moon. They were like, I've been waiting for something like this. There's no way in hell I'm going to be making this in my kitchen myself, but I've been waiting for a bar that like tastes good, checks all the boxes, and it doesn't have sugar alcohols. Like we were sitting next to other brands that are lower sugar, but they've got sucralose, they've got sugar alcohols, they've got seed oils, right? Consumers are getting savvier. And sometimes we think like it's only going to be in the natural set or in the specialty set, but it's everywhere. Consumers are looking for that. And that is why partners like Costco and Target and Kroger are bringing in brands that are changing the game. So we're so
Did
excited
that
for that.
surprise you that the Costco consumer was that excited to find it? Or did you like what was your thesis going in?
So my thesis was like, this is our chance, right? So like we have to
Right.
crush it. So, and we did, and that's great. But I was a little surprised, right? Like I knew our target consumer, right? So I know if they had in their basket like Simple Mills, Siete, right? Seven
Mhm.
Sundays, like these poppy, right? They're probably going to be interested and intrigued by this. But the customers that were buying like Reese's and Lay's potato chips and Coke were also like, this is good. Like this is healthy and good. That's what surprised me. That's where I was like, maybe they didn't buy like 10 boxes. Like the natural consumer was like, oh my God, I love this, you know, and then because Costco items are rotational, they're stocking up on it because they're like, we
Right.
don't know exactly when it's coming back. And that's the joy and the excitement in it. But for the consumer that's buying like a Lay's potato chip, they're like, I could see myself eating this every day. Like, I'm going to feed this to my kids. It's better than XYZ bar. And that's what surprised me is I knew I know our target consumer very well. I am our target consumer. So
Right.
we talk to her a lot, right? It's we skew a little bit older in our consumer, like a lot of brands are trying to reach Gen Z, love Gen Z, we have Gen Z interns. Our brand is different, right? We're definitely reaching more of that like elder millennial. We're reaching more of Gen X, baby boomer, because our consumers like need this product, right? Gen Z is like, this is cool. It looks fun. It's in Erewhon. Like the packaging's pretty. I can post it on Instagram. But there is the baby boomer that's like, I have high cholesterol. I have diabetes, right? I'm looking for something that tastes good, but it's like they need it because they're going through something in their life or they're just getting older and they're like, I just want to clean up my diet. So that need is what I really saw demonstrated at Costco, where we have had customers since, selling out at our clubs come to us. One of our customers sent us a message, which I sent to our buyer with like, she's like, I'm going to cancel my membership if this doesn't come back. I've already told, she's like, I bought 20 boxes and it's gone and I don't know what to do. And like, we've had several customers come to us being like, this
Wow.
is like, we need this back in the club. Like the urgency is what has been really cool to see because that means we've tapped a customer base that needs the product, not just wants it because it looks cool or it's sexy or buzzy in the industry. And that's really the space that we want to live in and why this brand exists is because it's more of a need than like I'm going to try it once because it's really like it can go viral on TikTok or it's trendy. But we did have we've gone viral a couple times and sometimes it's like the wrong side of viral, especially when we
Right.
talk about like healthy, clean ingredients. Sometimes we're going to get people that are like, who are you? Like, don't take away my hot Cheetos. Like, oh, I'm not taking away your hot Cheetos. Calm down. But that virality is great too because it still reaches our customer. But this was wild because we like got no negative comments. Like there were no trolls. Like it went viral because it was so authentic and pure and people just loved to see the entire experience from like start to finish. And we actually met customers in the club that was like, oh my God, you're the person from Instagram. And that was pretty cool.
That is really cool and also a testament to documenting the process and sharing the content and not I just what it sounds like you weren't necessarily overthinking it. You were just more so sharing it in somewhat real time of like,
Yes.
here's what's happening. And it's something I've noticed from your content in general that I really love that it
Thank
feels
you.
very genuine and
Thank
not
you.
trying to be not forcing to go viral because we all see those brands and we all know
Yes.
those brands,
Yes.
but for you, it feels very genuine, and the fact that it really feels like you are building this nation and
Yes.
this community and the
Yeah.
name and the story behind it, I'm like, as a brand strategist, like, this is the stuff I nerd out about. I'm like, "Oh,
Oh,
that's so good."
that
Like,
means so much to me because
yeah,
a
it
lot
I
of
feel
times
it.
you look around and there's brands that are going viral all the time and that is not for us, right? Like I also don't share content unless I probably have to do a better job at this, but I don't share content unless I know it's going to hit with our community and resonate with our
Mhm.
community. So sometimes there are 5 days where it's like, we're not going to post. I also, we do as much in-house as possible. So I still manage
Right.
all of our social media. I am the person that is DMing, people in their Instagram stories and asking about their kids and their dogs. And that is me. So it is, and it's a hard job. And eventually I'm going to have to outsource it, but I want to own it for as long as I possibly can, because that's how we're building this community, as opposed to just like making a lot of content and putting it out there for the virality sake. It's nice, right? It's nice to go viral because it's reaffirming. It also leads to sales, right? So like
Right.
the point of social media is you want it to convert, but it's not going to convert all the time. Sometimes it's just going to reinforce your message and reinforce the brand. And it's not like, oh, that fun, like freeze dried candy went viral like 11 times on TikTok, and that's why I'm buying it for $1, right? We want
Right.
to be a brand that persists and not just is kind of like peaks and then all of a sudden it's like drastically comes down. Like we want to live forever, right? So, and have a
Right.
place in people's pantries for as long as humanly possible. So that's why we strategize our content. It's like, what do our followers want, right? Not like what's going to catch the algorithm's eye. Although I probably have to weave some of that in as well too. And that's why it comes off, I'm hoping it's so authentic, because it's so, all of the things happen, right? They are directly happening to me or happening to our community. So I want to make sure that we're sharing that. But it's very hard. There's a lot out there. There's a lot of content that we're consuming on a daily basis. There's things where I'm like, how is this going viral? It's so inauthentic, but it doesn't matter. You have to be true to your heart and your brand voice.
You touched upon something really important of the longevity of the brand,
Mhm.
right? And that's something I've learned 15 years in building brands, primarily with social storytelling, and that authenticity stands the test of time. No
It
matter
does.
what platform we're all on, or what trends and audio and transitions that come and go with, video and photos and all that stuff. It's the storytelling that's always been the tried and true, and that's what I look for in brands who are really good storytellers. And that's something that stood out to me about your brand, is that you are pulling that thread and bringing people along with you. So it's cool to hear that that is also showing a positive impact on the business, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
you're able to send those messages to your buyer. Like, what better evidence and data than those types of messages? It's brilliant. It's cool. It's really
When the
cool.
consumer speaks, like it's it's so helpful for us, right? I tell people, like, it's kind of like voting, right? Like every vote
Right.
counts. It's every time you share with your local manager, right? Like a retailer, that helps us tremendously. And that's how a lot of buyers end up coming to us, because they're like, oh, I saw B.T.R Nation, or someone told me about B.T.R Nation. It's been so helpful. And, being able to have distribution in a lot of different channels. So we're very omni-channel. We don't just live in one, right? So food service is huge for us because we have a very large airport distribution network, and we're over 100 points of distribution in airports.
Amazing.
So we get a lot of buyers that come to us and consumers that come to us from airports, and they're like, oh my goodness, I saw you at JFK, I saw you at LAX, right? And that has been tremendously helpful because buyers have to travel too. So that's been really unique for us. And I didn't know that going in. It just really kind of came to us and fell in our lap. And we've really been trying to leverage that and expand on that since. And I think that's really opened a lot of doors for us as well.
That's a great point of going somewhere that maybe was a bit unexpected, or something that maybe you thought you had to do in, many years from now, but it sounded like an opportunity that came to you sooner than later and you jumped on it, and how
Yeah,
it's like you're almost creating your own ecosystem too, of
I love that.
touching buyers and consumers, and like creating that buzz by having an omni channel, but also just the different touch points of where you are.
Exactly. We're an on the go only brand. So we have had so many consumers that are like, oh, are you going to make a greens powder? Like, no, we're definitely not. Like, I come from the supplement industry. Absolutely not. We have people that are like, are you going to make coffee? We live in the vending machine, right? So
Right.
anything that would come out of a vending machine, which is a lot, so there's a lot of directions that we can take it. That's our core thesis, is we're reimagining what would be in a vending machine, what you might see in a convenience store, what you might see in a gas station, right? Like traditionally, big food, full of food dyes, full of sugar. How can we reimagine that and give people an alternative that's gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, has a super clean ingredient label, and just something that's really yummy and unexpected, right? I think a lot of times people try B.T.R and they're like, this is much better than I thought it would. Like, this is really good because
It
it's
is
so
good.
clean. People are like, what is it really going to be like? And it's very, very hard to do. And it's why we have some innovation coming in Q4. We're very excited for it, but it is very difficult for us to innovate super quickly because it takes us about a year to do R&D. And I'd love
Wow.
to cut that time down. And
Yes.
we're growing our team now. We literally last week is we have a VP of sales and marketing, which is going to change the game for
Oh,
us. I
good
know,
for you.
very.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So now we are a team of 4, which is huge. And literally a year ago, we were a team of myself. I had a part-time director of operations, and we had just hired our warehouse manager. Now there's 4 of us, full, including myself, full time. And it's especially when you're a solo founder, you need to hire and you need to either raise capital or be ready to go to bring on the best talent, because that's what's going to take you to the next level. That's what I've seen is like, I know where I can take the brand by myself. And because I did that right at the supplement company I was working for, like I
Right.
know how far I can take it. But if we want to be in, every pantry and trying to hit multiple distribution points, like there comes a time when you need to hire, and it's got to be the best. So I'm very excited. We're lean, but we have an all A+ team, which is great.
Incredible. What is a piece of advice you would share to an emerging founder who's a few steps behind and really looking up to what you've built? You've touched on so many incredible points today, but I would love to hear like what would be like that one thing to remind a founder who's in the early stages?
I've got so many, Kelly. I think, and I'm gonna try not to end on a cynical note, but I'm gonna just a practical piece of advice is know how much capital is required in a food and beverage or consumable, any type of CPG business. Know what you're getting yourself into. I think that my husband asks me this all the time, like, if you knew that you had to fundraise and do all of these things, like, would you still do it? And I was like, absolutely, in a heartbeat. But I wish I knew a little bit more of how much it actually requires, right? Getting into distribution and being able to, like, we fly off the shelves, which is wonderful. Velocity is great. For us, it's more of like, you got to sometimes pay to play, right? Like sometimes you
Right.
need to slot in, right? And maybe that doesn't mean like actual like dollars, but it means free product, right? Like free
Right.
product is dollars, and knowing that and knowing how you're going to get that. So maybe it's your life savings, maybe it's family and friends, maybe it's angel investors, but you need to have that strategy and that plan buttoned up, because you're going to get a big PO and then you're going to look
Right.
around and be like, how am I supposed to finance this? Right. Knowing that what does a debt stack look like? You don't want to get into too much debt, and reaching out to other founders. I'm always happy to share. I'm a mentor to two other founders in the space. So happy to share and happy to, give words of wisdom and give advice and just like be someone to vent to, because having enough capital to get it all done is what you need. And I think sometimes we look around at other brands and we're like, oh my God, like how are they able to do this? And it's because they set themselves up for success with capital, right? We're a profitable business. It's so exciting to be profitable, but you also need to grow, right? So being
Right.
able to know like what you can reinvest back into the business, and not being like, oh, looking at that brand over there that, spends tens of millions of dollars in marketing. If you don't have that money, you can't do all of those, fun, exciting, like trendy things on Instagram. You're going to have to get scrappy. So figuring out what that path looks like and what success looks like to you is the advice that I would give, because not everyone, like our new VP of sales and marketing says this, there's like 3 paths in CPG, right? As you build this awesome lifestyle business, right? You aim to get acquired because you know that that's going to open your distribution network, which is something that's really important to us. Or you have to shut your business down, right? There's not that many paths. And he's like,
Mhm.
I'm blunt. I know this is really
No,
scary,
this
but
is
it's
really good
good to
advice.
know. It's really good to know going in, because you have to make up your mind as soon as you take a dollar, right? We've fundraised, like as soon as you take a dollar, your investors are looking to you to exit and to get them their return, which is totally fine, right? That's how you get more distribution. It's how you get your margins in a better place. Like that is an amazing goal. But as soon as you take a dollar, you got to make sure that you have other people to answer to now. So that's not to end on a
No,
cynical note, but
that's not cynical at all. That's real life.
it's
And
real life.
I appreciate, and this is why I have the podcast, to have more
Yeah.
of these industry conversations and more of this real talk, because I think this is what is really impactful for an emerging brand and a founder who's in the early stages. So I really appreciate your candidness and, again, authenticity of sharing your own story, what you've been finding, to pass that along. I think that's amazing.
Thank you.
The last question, I know you have to run because you have an important call. Where can people shop
Thank you.
your product?
Oh, good question. So online, we still are a good chunk, over half of our business is still direct to consumer, which is really cool. And I love that because it helps us just, I don't want to say own, I hate that phrasing, but have a direct relationship with our consumer and talk to them, get feedback. So D2C, btrnation.com. You can find us on Amazon. You can find us on Thrive. Our store locator is there as well too. I'm pretty sure at this point sold out of every Costco club. So, but coming back, and we've got a lot of new launches coming up. So stay tuned for November and December of this year.
Incredible. Ashley, thank you so much. This was an amazing conversation. Thank you everyone for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you, Kelly.